It's NFL Week 16, and Ron and I thank you. Appreciate that. We're here. Enough. Okay. Obviously, I found the new tool on the stream here. Yeah. Ron and I are here. We're here to discuss what happened in Week 15. We're here to discuss what we're looking at in Week 16. We're here to discuss miscellaneous stuff, and we're not here to sell you anything. You don't have to sit through ads. We're not going to tell you to buy anything, and we're just going to shoot the crap. So we may not be the most entertaining pair on the internet, but at least we're going to talk about useful stuff if you like to bet football. How's it going, Ron?
Well, that was a good introduction. I like that. Pretty good. I think we're both in a good mood from last week, although we arrived at it as usual, different ways. My path was much more scary as compared to yours because my path, as we'll talk about, was not good in the morning, but obviously got cleaned up in the afternoon and beyond. So I had to suffer a little bit, but in the end, we enjoyed Week 15.
Yeah, I'm going to have a little story time from the past. It's a blast from the past that I was the beneficiary of. So we're going to tell a story about the way things used to be and how they were this weekend. So I'm overhyping it, just a little comment. Let's get into it. We started off with the Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was an unusual game, to say the least. Big comeback by Atlanta. They blew the Tampa Bay blew the 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. Did they do the go for two routine and miss, and then yeah. So
twice.
So they did the go for two thing. They failed a couple times, but they still ended up winning. That was a test that Dan Campbell failed, by the way, in the Lions game. Thankfully for me, but that game landed absolutely dead nuts perfectly for my betting privately. I wish. I don't know about you. I think what I've learned is, when you have Cousins in the ball game, you're never out of it. That guy's got the passion. There's no quit in him. You saw that in the quarterback special that they had. I really like the guy, and I cannot believe the collapse Tampa Bay had. Obviously, there was no excuse for it. There was a lot of vulgarity after the game. And at the press conference regarding the team performance, and enough said there. Just awful. Is that 6 games in a row Tampa is pissed away? I don't have that written down. It's like 5 out of 6 at least.
Boy, this is one of those games. If you ask me what my expectations were going in, I would have said bad coaching. If you ask me what my expectations afterwards, bad coaching. I mean, these teams can't get out of their own way, and credit to Atlanta for coming back, but this is supposed to be Tampa's easiest part of the schedule, and they keep blowing it. I mean, I would blow up both organizations in terms of front office. Front office for Atlanta and coaching for both. I had no play on the game because I was my numbers probably pointed to taking the dog, divisional game, NFC South. That's usually what happens. But I was worried about Atlanta fatigue. And they were behind by, 14, 16 points they were behind. So you have to think that, there was something where Atlanta shouldn't have won the game, but they did. But nothing from me.
Arizona and Houston, 40-20. Solid defense. Arizona only held to 20 points. They usually score more than that lately because they're usually giving up 30s and 40s. So, yeah. You know what? I got nothing on this game. Houston's just on that roll, and I didn't have anything on the game. I did. I had them in 10-point teasers, but that was about it.
Yeah, I didn't have anything on the game. I'm guessing that our audience probably looked at Houston or nothing, because neither one of us have talked up Arizona recently, especially, when they're with their defense and with their problems defensively. Uh, no real. The only surprise to me is that I wasn't sure Houston would be focused early in the game. I figured they'd find a way to win, but instead they came out pretty hot. So congratulations to Houston for taking care of business.
Oh, I might have a Slurpee leak here. What's going on?
Uh-oh.
What a mess. 75 yards of offense for the Las Vegas Raiders. And a head coach afterward on the defensive, touting his history of great success as, his strong suit for why the team should be doing better this year, pretty much. Is that what you got out of that?
Yeah, 2 hours and 31-minute game time, the shortest game time in several years, if not more than that. I can't remember the exact date the last time there was a 2.5-hour game. There were some games that lasted an hour longer than that one in the morning. Obviously, if you're on the Red Zone channel, they didn't pay much attention to this game because it was so one-sided. I had some surprising results this week in terms of what my expectations were and what happened. So this was the first time in a few weeks I could say there were some surprises. This one was not a surprise. And I think in retrospect, if there was any big favorite I should have backed, it was probably going against Vegas in this particular game. But the bad teams, Chris, are just really bad this year.
Yeah, we were seeing that last year, though, too. I don't think that's any different than previous years. Do you?
I agree with your statement from last year, but prior to last year, it was not really true. And so I thought it would reset this year. And that surprised me a little bit that there are really 5 or 6 teams that are just, going in, you have to get lucky to cover a spread. The other team has to be distracted, or there has to be some matchup value that favors them or scheduling value. Because these bad teams, it's amazing how many are so low power rated.
That was the first time in 7 years the Eagles had a shutout, and we had 2 teams shut out this week, the Raiders being one of them. Philadelphia was 10 for 13 on third down, which was a little unusual, atypical for them. So they changed it around a little bit.
Omar has a comment which reminds me of something. He says, "Can you believe the Raiders won in New England week 1?" Obviously, that result seems weird now, but how many times have we seen week 1 results that are just crazy? And you think, oh, well, they're really going to be good. And then they end up with 2 wins or something, like the old 49ers and some of these other teams. So week 1 is week 1. It's just another reinforcement that week 1 is so strange.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget was it the Saints last year that looked like world beaters out of the gate, or was that the year before?
I believe it was the Saints. And then the year before, where the Dolphins started by scoring 40-something points a game in the first 3 games. You get these things. Houston started 0-3 this year, and look where they are.
Yeah. The Jets and the Jaguars, those Jets are really annoying. I guess they've quit again. We were talking about at one point that they, were playing hard, and they were 3-2 in their 5 games, and now they've lost 2 really bad games in a row, and they've even started letting players go because the players just want to leave. So that's how bad it is there. I'm not sure whether that's a matter of the Jets bad or Jaguars good. But 48-20, not much else to say. The Jags keep rolling, and the Jets are disappointing.
Here we go again. The Jets have 2 defensive takeaways all year, no interceptions, made Trevor Lawrence look like the best quarterback on the planet with 5 TDs passing and 1 TD running. I try to do kind of a 1-sentence thing for each team. And for the Jets, I don't think anybody in the organization, the players and maybe the head coach, but anybody else in position of power in the organization they're not thinking about this year anymore. All they're trying to do is see who wants to be on the team next year, who doesn't. I would play all kinds of different combinations to see what I have there, because this is going to be a massive house cleaning. I didn't expect Jacksonville to kill them the way they did, but I expected them to win, and double digits was not quite out of the question, even though they hadn't been a double-digit favorite for so long. I just continue to be impressed with how the Jags are playing defense.
Wow, as you mentioned that, somehow I noticed that. Where do you have them defensively in the league at this point?
The Jags?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at my numbers, not a great sacking team, a little upper echelon pass defense, one of the better run defensive teams. I probably have them in the 7 to 11 range, 7 to 12.
Yeah, they're I have them right up there near the top.
Yeah. And that's unusual to be talking about the Jags in that area, but they've been consistent. That's one of the things about this team. I don't know. Yeah, you could check that too. Ebbs and flows. Have they even had any ebbs and flows defensively?
Well, they're number 4 over the last 5 weeks defensively on my charts. So okay. They've quietly. We'll talk about that when we get to this week's game. Let's talk about them later.
Okay.
I just noticed that they're much higher defensively than I realized.
Yeah.
The Browns and the Bears. My gosh. 3 interceptions for Shador. What's this other note I have? Boy, why can I not write legibly? It's amazing. Oh, the wristband mishap where they sent him out taking snaps in a game with the wrong wristband with the wrong plays on it. How can it get any worse there? It's just hilarity at this point.
Yeah, well, the Cleveland Browns are not a great road team to begin with. We sat here a week ago and we said the Browns line 7.5 seemed a little light based on our numbers and stuff like that. Maybe they were intentionally looking at the Green Bay sandwich and whatever. Could Chicago get back up for this game and so on? So once again, just like Chicago against Green Bay, Chicago against Cleveland, I have to give Chicago credit. They belong in this race now. There was no letdown. They took care of business. They didn't let anything bother them. Their defense is maybe not so quietly getting better because they're getting healthy. And remember, they weren't that healthy at the beginning of the year. They had a new staff and stuff like that. Congratulations, Chicago. That was a good effort.
Yeah, and I happen to notice Chicago's number 2 over the last 5 weeks in defensive value gain. So you hit the nail on the head there. And they've played some tough teams also.
Plus 20 turnover ratio.
But yeah, there was no way I was laying 7.5. But I did put them, heavily into play in teasers, and maybe you couldn't do money line parlays because the money line was really strong on that game. So that was one of the few instances where you get a lot of extra value in a teaser. Buffalo and the Patriots. That was surprising. Not that the final score ended up where it was, but just basically how it got there. I think Buffalo gave up 7.5 yards per play. They gave up 250 yards rushing. It looked like they were going to get blown out, and then the Patriots fell apart and let them back in, and it actually looked like it was going to be a blowout the other way at one point. The Patriots have red zone issues on both sides of the ball. They can't seem to convert their red zone sometimes, and they're giving up touchdowns when the other team gets in the red zone. They're missing a left tackle. They're missing a right guard, I believe, and it's affecting the team.
Yeah, this is a reminder to me. It should be a reminder to people who chart the NFL that passing matters more than running. How many times have I said New England dares you to pass the ball because their first priority is to stop the run? So they stopped the run in the first half. Cook got his yardage late, unfortunately, but they stopped the run in the first half, led 21-0, forced Josh Allen to be Josh Allen, and then they passed all over them. And New England took the lead again, but then Buffalo scored another time, just reminding us that New England still has a little bit of ways to go. First 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, I wasn't involved, but when the line went to 2.5, I did get involved in New England in this game, and it was Sunday play. It looked pretty good for a long time, but it didn't end on a good note because Buffalo did cover the spread. What I learned from this game is you can't count Buffalo out, and New England's good, but they're not a top 10 power rated team.
Yeah, they something off about them. I think it's just it's getting to be a long season on them. A lot of young players, new coaching, and it's a lot to pull together. It seems like Buffalo's getting quiet. I mean, talking about a perfect trip that they have without Mahomes in the playoffs, with a weekend Jackson, without who's the other major quarterback in the AFC not out? I forget. Burrow. And if they don't do it this year, Jesus.
Yeah, things are starting to come together. They will be a wild card team if they get in and when they get in the playoffs. So they're most likely going to have 0, or if they're lucky, they're going to get a home game because some of the 1, 2, 3 seeds are not used to being 1, 2, 3 seeds. It's unusual to see Jacksonville be a 1, 2, 3 seed or Denver be a 1, 2, 3 seed.
Well, they always make the comment that Burrow can't play defense. Well, if you translated the performance last week, you'd certainly want him on defense with the big goose egg he put up. So, did they quit officially? Is that what happened here?
They're just no good defensively, first of all. It was a turnaround. Remember, we talked about the one thing that scared me about this game, because I would have liked to have Cincinnati, is that Baltimore lost to them not that long ago. And so they remember the quick turnaround there. And obviously Baltimore was fighting for their lives, and Burrow had some comments during the week. There was a lot of weird things going on before the game. But if you want to put it in the realm of surprising to me, I can't believe, I mean, I would have penciled Cincinnati in for 20 points minimum in this game. So it's really shocking to me that not only did they not score, but they didn't score 3 times.
Yeah, I wasn't paying as careful attention to the game, and I had it as a solid Baltimore bet. It was just like such an easy bet, and I'm sitting there looking at it and wondering about the line movement, and I'm like, how is this line is just off. These teams are not that close. And when I saw the score, I'm like, okay, Baltimore's back. But when you really, the reaction seemed to be that Baltimore wasn't impressive. It was more of Cincinnati just not showing up. So
yeah, they didn't show up. They had a good home situation that they didn't take advantage of. Not a perfect home situation, but a good one. And Lamar Jackson, maybe he didn't need to run in this game, but we're still looking at a guy who, if I remember my notes, last 5 games total 117 rush yards, and that's not Lamar Jackson.
No, it isn't. The Chargers in Kansas City, that was end of an era, 11 years in a row, the playoffs, I believe, for the Kansas City. That game, I expected the Chargers to win that game. It didn't really go as I expected it to go, but somehow it ended up there. Unfortunate with the Mahomes injury. I just hate to see that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, do you think that they're I think they're more in a rebuild than a retool at this point with that organization. The metrics are just they've got a lot of problems all over.
They're going to take a long, hard look at potential rebuild or rebranding, like you said. I think re-signing Chris Jones and some of the other veterans was the right move while they were on this incredible streak of 9 straight NFC West titles and Mahomes there and amped up offense. We thought it would be an amped up offense with a lot of weapons, Rice back, Worthy year 2, et cetera, et cetera. But now there's some age creeping in, especially defensively. They've misfired in the secondary. So I agree with you. I think they're going to take a little bit of a look.
Yeah, I'm going to pull off a question that isn't on the comments, but should be. And that question is from Imaginary Chris. And that is, you guys, 6 or 7 weeks ago, were going on and on about how complete Kansas City was and how these recent drafts had really, strengthened them. And, that this was a team to be reckoned with. And they really had their crap together, and they built a really, really solid team. What the hell has happened in a month and a half or 2 months?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at I said, okay, I better pull my record. What's my record on Green Bay the last 5 weeks? So nobody can read this, but the last column shows XXXXX. I haven't even bet on Kansas City games for or against the last 5 weeks, which is probably a bad thing because they lost to the spread all 5 weeks. And so maybe I didn't see the fact that I should have been betting against them. But what happened to them? I guess their sack ratio has not been good. Their pass defense is worse than last year. They're scoring 24 points per game. There was nothing in the matchup analysis for any of the last month for me, and maybe for you as well, that said, hey, the Chiefs are playing at a high level. So we could say what we said, and I believed what I said a few weeks ago, saying, watch out for this KC team. But the numbers didn't support what I was saying. So just like your model, if your model doesn't support it, how can you go to the well and back them?
Well, Russell, we like confrontation, so always feel free. I still have Kansas City surprisingly rated pretty high, so there's some stuff that they were doing well, but I was always betting against them at the same time. They're rated very high, but I've been betting against them somehow, so very strange. I have to look closer into that team.
Yeah, they didn't. A lot of teams, save for maybe Seattle and the Rams, haven't separated themselves from the NFL in terms of true power rating or model or metrics or whatever. At one point, Detroit was near the top or at the top. Baltimore at the beginning was near or at the top. Buffalo inched its way near the top, and then they got some defensive players back, and then they went back down. A lot of these teams went up there, but then they couldn't sustain, and Kansas City was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, Omer brings up a good point, and that is Kansas City was in a position to win that game. We're making it sound like they were DOA, and they weren't DOA by any means. So
no, and I had Kansas City. The Chargers had value. I was supposed to play the Chargers technically on the regular line, but I made such a big deal about the fact they played on Monday night, that Herbert was playing with one hand and all these other things, that I just didn't like the Chargers in this situation. I actually thought KC would win the game. I didn't care about the spread. So I put them in one money line parlay, and it failed. My fault.
Well, we had 4 teams that had been shut, or 5 teams that had been shut out, and coming into last week, and Washington made it 5-0 this year. Teams off that shutout coming back to win, and that's what they did against the Giants. I had chicken feet on Washington, kind of pansied out a little bit on that one because it was a very borderline play for me. I don't think you made out as well, though, there.
No, I didn't, because I've had some really good weeks where I haven't had to say anything bad about myself. So this week I would say something bad about me in the KC game. I could have had Philly, and I had the Giants as part of the money line parlay as well, and a half bet on them on the money line is, so in a sense, I lost 1.5 stars on the New York Giants, and 29-21, but I didn't feel like they were in this game. Washington rebounded nicely. The Giants didn't have this home spark. I thought, well, maybe this is the year they have a little home spark. It's a divisional game. I don't know if I misread the game or it's just the Giants are that bad, but obviously didn't help my morning where I had those in New England. So it was a slow start to week 15. Apologize for having the Giants.
Yeah, I was kicking myself for not playing them stronger, but that's always easy to do.
Yeah.
Well, as expected, Seattle had to battle, get a close win against Indianapolis. That game went pretty much as expected. And as far as my numbers went, what about you?
Well, now we're entering the more fun part of our conversation, the afternoon. I did nothing on this game, even though I correctly predicted that teams in Indianapolis's state, where they're trying to rally, quarterback hasn't played in 5 years, this and that adversity, their defense, I don't know, instinctively plays better and battens down the hatches, and they didn't allow Seattle to score a touchdown. In reality, in retrospect, the under was a good play because the team came to play for Rivers. They just couldn't quite get it done. I mean, Seattle's defense is tough. Rivers staying error-free by throwing the short passes helped. Seattle gang tackled Taylor, 25 carries, 80-something yards. So it wasn't a great offensive performance by Seattle, but Indy rallied defensively.
6 field goals. It's, hilarious. And it seemed like they intentionally left enough. They went ahead and then gave it up and then went ahead again. And it seemed like they intentionally left enough time on the clock for that to happen when they scored the 5th field goal.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I would have forgotten to say this. But one of the absolute best coaching performances of the year happened in that game. I was gonna say Jim Harbaugh rallying against KC, and playing that game was outstanding. But what Seattle did with its timeout usage, with 2 minutes left in the game, was outstanding. Seattle won the game because of coaching, because I think Indy slightly outplayed them in the game. But I thought it was outstanding what Seattle did managing timeouts.
Well, again, that look ahead line was 2.5, and Daniel Jones just wasn't worth 12 points, 13 points. So that was a situation. Whether it was going to be Rivers or the rookie quarterback or the backup making the play, it's just too large of a compensation.
Yeah, it was a very fascinating game. In fact, even though I had some rather big plays elsewhere, I ended up watching this game, the Indy-Seattle game, probably about 90% of the time because I was just fascinated by the chess match that was going on and fascinated by Rivers and how Indy was doing on defense, what Darnold would bring to the table. I thought it was just one of the more enjoyable games to watch last week.
Well, I wouldn't have been too happy. I think I had some 13. Oh, no, I didn't. There was one reason. I wanted Seattle to win the game for some reason. Oh, I had early teasers before the line shot up. We had, I think, 6 double-digit comebacks. Denver was one of those. They were down 23-14 in the third quarter. It wasn't looking good. And then all of a sudden they shut Green Bay down. I think 7 drives or 6 drives or 6 or 7 drives. Green Bay had 55 yards or something to finish out the game. So a little surprising that it was a little Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Denver again wins a close game late, comes from behind. They seem to just squeak them out.
Yeah. Don't have to say too much because anybody who watched the show last week probably knew how I felt about this game. So this was, I think, my second biggest game of the year. And maybe it was good that I didn't know the score of the game because I was so intent on watching Indy Seattle. But in the end, Denver wins, covers. They were a dog. For most of the time, I think both of us talked about the fact the game was likely to go to pick 'em by the end of the time. But they opened as 2.5-point dogs, plus 125 on the money line, as you probably know, because I think you were hitting the send button as we were talking. So that was an important game. Let's just say that it's good to be on the right side.
And I appreciated that because, as I mentioned before we went on air, there was a couple of crossroads where I was making some decisions, and I remembered, I think Ron was holding something back. I think he really liked Denver, and since it's right on the cusp for me, I'm going to go ahead and get involved with Denver more than I initially planned. So that was good.
Worked out.
So Carolina on the road looked comfortably ahead, and we're going to have the game in control, and they pissed it away to the rookie quarterback. This guy's pretty good for the Saints, huh?
Yeah, it's worked out pretty good for them. I think one thing that I'm proud of also last week, now that we're done with the morning games from last week, is that Carolina stat sheet, I said this on the air last week, was not as good as New Orleans stat sheet. And for all the love that Bryce Young gets, and he's been, I don't know, one week he looks like a world beater and the next week he looks like he's benched, but the cumulative stats were just not strong enough to make them a road favorite. So it was a good bet on New Orleans. I did not have the money line in that game. I wanted the full 3 points just for comfort. In the NFC South, if you can get 3 points, it's really been pretty good, especially if you think you have a matchup advantage. Couldn't pull the trigger on Atlanta, Tampa, but did pull the trigger on the Saints. I just thought the Saints came into the game, honestly, as a slightly better team.
Yeah, and I agree with Tom. I think we've talked about it also, is the Saints haven't quit this entire year. They faced some big difficulties, but they haven't quit.
I love the future for this team with Kellen Moore as coach. If they get a GM with a pulse, I just don't like the way they draft and trade away draft choices. But yeah, they've been trying all year. This is a fun team this year because they have 3 or 4 wins, but they seem like they've exceeded expectations.
Yeah, I agree. Lions game ended pretty much where I feared it would end, but in an unusual way. They had control early. Then they had their third quarter blues, which seems to be consistent, where they come out of the third quarter and they think it means 3 and out. So they blew the double-digit lead, and the Rams actually pulled away. It was up by 14. Thank goodness. The Lions scored that touchdown to come within teaser range. And I was happy also that they didn't go for 2, because I had some 7.5 and I didn't want to risk that. But the other note I have, they have 39 sacks. I pulled this stat for you because you're Mr. Sack Happy. They have 39 sacks, which is pretty good, but 25 of them have been in 5 games. So they get them all in bunches.
Yeah, that makes sense in terms of that. Yeah, I am the sack guy, 5-2 in sack props last week. So that part has worked out. As people know, I like the Rams last week because of the double revenge, the playoff revenge, finally getting to play the Lions at home, better power rated and everything. But the line was too high. So I was glad to have that August. If I didn't have that future play, that August play, I probably would have put them in a money line parlay somewhere, to make sure I had something on the Rams. But I expected a close game. Anything over 3, I wasn't going to lay with the Rams. I think these teams just naturally are going to play close games when they face each other. And who knows, they could face each other again. Detroit still has a little bit of work to do to get in the playoffs, but I wouldn't rule it out. There's still parts, as you know, of the Lions team that are very scary. If the Lions got 37 against a good Ram defense, the Lions are still scary.
Yeah, the Rams have the fourth best defense in the league, and the Lions were able to run all over them for much of the game. But I disagree with Tom. He says you can't downgrade Campbell enough since he became the play caller, I think is what he's referencing. Mm-hmm. And the Lions lead the National Football League in points. And since he took over play calling, they've been doing very, very well. I mean, I saw a chart, and I should have pulled it out, on they're leading the league in like a handful of categories since he's taken over the play calling. And so something is working. It's a matter of whether Gibbs is working or not, which is causing, a couple of blips.
I was looking over Detroit's overall metrics offensively and defensively, and it's pretty clean. This is a more complete team if you look at the numbers than we've seen with the Lions. You could argue even compared to last year when they couldn't sack opposing quarterbacks. So in some respects, this is a better team, but they did lose a couple of coordinators, and I think they're allowing more points than they should given the defensive metrics. And I think part of it is they're not making enough plays when it matters on the back end. And that's something you and I have talked about. They need to draft better on the back end. Yeah,
they're giving up the third and longs, and they're committing penalties on third, and it's just unfortunate. Second game in a row, the Rams have had 500 plus yards.
Yeah.
Anything to glean from the 49ers Titans?
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to say I have nothing on the game. Didn't watch it. Didn't pay attention to it.
The only thing that draws attention is they gave up 24 points to the Titans.
Yeah, the thing I pointed out last week is their stat sheet is comprised of playing teams that are not that good. It's that fourth place schedule. To their credit, they have a lot of good parts. I mean, Purdy is a highly accurate quarterback. Kittle is an exceptional tight end in all phases of the game, just not just catches, but the way he blocks, the way he does a lot of things for that team. There's a lot of good pieces to that team, but there's also a lot of problems with this team. How can you have 16 sacks against this kind of fourth place schedule with 10 wins when the other team is playing from behind? So there are some masked problems still with San Francisco.
Myles Garrett has more sacks than the 49ers this year, right?
Yeah, actually he has about 5 more sacks or 6 more sacks than them. You have to give, if you say, I'll give Myles Garrett minus 5.5 sacks against San Francisco, you're ahead.
Denver has almost 4 times the amount of sacks as San Francisco. I mean, that's just amazing.
It's an unheard of stat for a team that's 10-4.
And what quarterback in the league really needs to face a team like that more than Rivers?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. It really is a nice matchup for him.
That Dallas Minnesota game was something else. I don't know. They're doing it all without Jefferson too. That's why Minnesota somehow walks away with that game. Dallas can't even cover teasers. They can't even stay within a touchdown. It's just dumbfounding. And the fact that Jefferson's not even involved makes it even more dumbfounding.
Yeah, they threw to Jefferson 8 times. 2 or 3 of those, he was wide open and the throw was wild. They're not, J.J. McCarthy is playing better, but not playing perfect by any means. He's missing some wide open receivers. As fun as it was watching Pearsall do his thing for San Francisco. It was not fun me having to play on Jefferson over 61.5 receiving yards and not even having a chance in that particular game. The other, it's easy to say in retrospect, obviously, but why am I not going against a Matt Eberflus coach defense a little more often, with some of these offensive-minded teams? Because that defense is terrible.
Well, we talked about it. They were number 2 worst defense, number 2 best offense. So a team of extremes.
Yeah, I stayed off the game. Probably could have justified a 1-star on Minnesota.
This game leads into my little story.
Okay.
Did you have anything on the Dolphins, Steelers?
Oh, yeah. Pittsburgh's my favorite team, with situations and history and this and that and so on and so forth. So I had to reset a money line parlay after Kansas City's loss. So I had Pittsburgh in a parlay. I had considering that Miami was in a terrible situation, I think I had a kind of a low straight play on them. The line went to 3. And when it went to 3, I took out a 1.5 unit play. So it was between small and medium. So I ended up winning on Pittsburgh. And I know they gave up those late TDs, but boy, did they have this game in hand.
I had that. I went to the fruit market and got some bananas for the banana in the tailpipe Miami Dolphins play. But I only played them in teasers. And I had such a beautiful setup, too, because I'm supposed to play Miami, and that's where, where I'm leaned. And I had it set up at a 16.5 to 1 risk because I was going to make I could have middled the game. If it would have fallen in the middle, I was getting 16.5 to 1, risking a half a unit. And if Miami had covered, it would have made somewhere around 4 units. And it was just the perfect setup. And of course, none of these perfect setups ever come in. But I went to bed. I saw it was 28 to 3. I figured it was done. I didn't even know that Miami had covered 13.5 point teasers until last night. I just figured there was no way they came back. So that was a pleasant surprise that they actually were able to cover and push some teasers. But where the story comes in, this is story times from the elderly Ron and Chris here.
Okay.
That when teasers were first made, you used to push on teasers. And the reason being was because it wasn't, I don't remember what the specific way to explain it, but it's not like parlays where you could reduce to one team. So you didn't have that option. And that's the main reason why teasers should push. And over the last 10 years or so, the big bad sports books have started to take away what is absolutely a logical way to handle these wagers. Is if you push, you should push. But this one was more unusual because this was tied with a Dallas plus teaser that I had open that had lost on Thursday night, but was still open, or lost on Sunday night, but was still open because you have to complete all 3, like one push negates the whole rest of the teasers. So it doesn't matter if you lose. If you push, it's all canceled no matter what, win or lose. And even the nice books, for the most part, they make you win the other games, and then they'll give you the push. But fortunately, I had the wager placed at a place where you don't have to win the other wagers. And Dallas was a loser in the bank. I'm sitting there staring at it all day Monday as an open play. And the 13 pushed on Miami, and I'm like, yay, finally one of those hit. So the push was actually saved a sure loser. So There are still places out there in the far off reaches that actually treat you like they should and void a teaser on any push, not just wins.
So, two thoughts come to mind. Number one, the rules keep changing so that some of these plays become negative EV plays where you're giving up return on investment. I mean, every time you lose a play that you used to push, you're giving up money that you shouldn't have given up just because the rules have changed. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing is always check your book. Check what the rules are beforehand.
That's it for that. Anything else you can think of last week?
Nope. Last week is history.
We had 13 teams eliminated overall so far. I think the other note that I have is it seems like we have a handful of teams that have quit. And It's just frustrating when you look at a couple of these matchups. I guess we'll get to where it's like, at least on a Wednesday, I don't want anything to do with the game. Here's my other. This has already screwed me up once earlier this year, and it happens every single year. And I've had a couple of conversations this morning with people pointing this out, and they basically reacted with revulsion because it's very, very annoying when you have the schedule printed out and you have time changes. And the game at the bottom is a early start game because Cincinnati and Miami's been flexed out. And the game in the middle is now the Sunday night game, which is the Patriots-Ravens. So if you print out schedules, don't forget that you've got games completely out of sequence. And that causes problems sometimes.
Yeah, it's been so annoying in the college ranks when you have 60 games and you have times and they don't use rotation numbers at many of the books. It's just horrible. I guess we get by it because you have a maximum of 16 games in the NFL, but it is annoying.
It cost me in college one week because I did not have the time changes. It was like the one time I didn't have the time changes on my schedule printout. It usually comes with time changes. So
yeah, I have to do an extra step every week in the college. And that's on the games that I haven't played or I'm on the fence with or I'm looking for stuff. I have to do a special Excel sheet where I hand put in the names and stuff like that and what the time of the game is. And then I change the settings so that it goes in time order for me, so that I don't forget a game, because sometimes I'm waiting to the last minute in college to make a play. And yes, Chris, probably 2 or 3 times I'd missed out on a play because I didn't have the game time, or, I just let it slide by.
Yeah, that's happened to me. I just thought I did pull off a couple of graphs. If you want to take a look at the playoff leverage, the Carolina game has a 100.7% playoff leverage to it. So it's essentially a playoff game for those two teams.
Yeah, there are 2 divisions that are maybe not this week, but down the line are going to be crazy. The Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay dynamic starts this week, and the whole Pittsburgh, Baltimore, where Pittsburgh could clinch before they play Baltimore, or they could lose each of the next 2 weeks and still win the division by beating Baltimore. So there's some crazy dynamics going on these last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, even with if the Lions if they go 3-0, they have a 94% chance of going in, but they can be eliminated this week too, which you have to be. I'm noticing that when you look at these charts, these playoff scenarios, that sometimes they're wrong. So you gotta take some of this stuff with a grain of salt, with the real minutia, detailed, improbable type scenarios.
Russell's right. Houston, Indy, and Jacksonville also qualifies. The only difference there is Indy and Houston and Jacksonville, they don't play each other down the stretch.
It's a shame that even with a win, Indy only has a 30% chance, 31% chance. That was a little surprising. And look at the big drop the Bears have down to 58% if they lose this week. Kind of surprising. They're going up and down like a yo-yo with probabilities.
What's Green Bay with a win
Green
and
Bay
a loss?
Is 75 or 99, 76 or 99.
Okay. So you like pizza, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. So they always say pizza money bets. Detroit is anywhere from 13 to 14 to 1 to win the division. Thoughts?
Yeah. You like that?
I like mushroom pizza.
So what happens if Chicago and Green Bay tie this week?
If there's a tie, my brain will explode.
Yeah. I was reading that's the improbable way. That's the worst case scenario for the Lions is a tie this week.
Yeah. The Lions could still, if I remember correctly, have the best record in the division if they win out.
Yeah.
That's why you might want some mushrooms on your pizza.
But as far as I understand, they can be eliminated if Green Bay and Chicago tie this week.
Yeah. So what would you put the odds on them tying? 256 to 1, 272 to 1.
Green Bay seems to tie every half a season this year.
Well, they've had one already, so. Green Bay to miss the playoffs is plus 450.
Well, let's take a look at that. I can.
Every week there's a different topic on the table, and so this is an interesting one.
So here's how things map out.
All this assumes that Chicago will beat Green Bay this week.
Oh, the Lions would have to lose to Pittsburgh. If Green Bay and Chicago tie and Lions lose, then they'd be out.
Yeah. So if Green Bay beats Chicago, I think that closes that's probably going to close Detroit out from trying to win the divion. But if
who's going to win that game? Since that's the second game in. What do you have to say about this game?
Chicago, Green Bay. First of all, we need to know two things. One, is Watson going to play for Green Bay? Two, is Odunze going to play for Chicago? We got two guys who are important to the pass attacks because Watson has stepped it up these last 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And then he went out in the Denver game, I believe, with injury.
He's been critical.
Yeah. So that's really helped them. I think I would call this a slight Chicago scheduling edge with Green Bay back-to-back road games and this being played on a Saturday. Not that they're going to not try 100%. I'm just saying that it's road. That's all. I lean Chicago is a dog.
Do you know what the record of teams are this season after playing Denver?
No, I do not, but because I used to know the record after playing. Remember when Seattle was the Legion of Doom?
Yeah.
But after playing Seattle, teams were terrible, and after playing the old Pittsburgh Steelers teams were terrible. Are we saying the same thing about Denver?
We are saying they are terrible after playing Denver.
Okay.
3-10 this year.
Okay. The physicality of teams like the old Seattle and Pittsburgh and now Denver, there's a thing to it, maybe.
I've got to do more work on this game, but I was surprised. I would have thought they would have been more clear cut. Chicago would have been a play, and not necessarily finding that.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's clear cut, but it is a lean, and if they stay a dog, it might be a play for me. I've just been impressed with Chicago, and I don't want to say that just without some backing of the stat sheet proving me right. I don't want to just say it and grasp and look at air. Oh, they're playing better, I'm going to take them. I need to look at the stat sheet closer. And we talked about it, if you look at the stat sheet, Chicago has cleaned things up the last 5 weeks.
Boy, it's just it really is an interesting finish when you look at on both ends of the spectrum, because I think the Raiders and the Giants play each other, and they'll be playing for the number one. But it's just great scheduling this year, because the Bears have to go to San Francisco after this, and then it all finishes with Detroit. So
yeah,
and then obviously the Lions finished with the 2 divisional games on the road, back-to-back road games. I didn't realize that. At Minnesota, at Chicago, and obviously Minnesota's not going to lay down.
And let's talk about Green Bay. If they lose this game to Chicago, and I know they don't have tiebreakers because they have a tie unless you correctly predict the tie in this game, they have to face Baltimore at home, and we know Baltimore will be trying as hard as they possibly can. And then they have to go on the road to Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota gets to play spoiler.
Yeah. So that's why, I mean, it all hinges on if Green Bay beats Chicago, Detroit's not going to win the division.
Okay.
But 14-1.
Let's go to the LA Seattle game. They're tied for the division lead, right? They're tied right now, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a big game for Seattle, because if they lose to the Rams, that'll be 0-2 against the Rams, and the Rams will practically seal up home field advantage.
So then they would be tied 1-1 heads up. Who's got the tiebreakers after? Let's say Seattle wins.
Yeah, I don't know what the story is offhand, because I haven't researched it if Seattle wins. I can tell you the Rams have the easier schedule after this.
You think they do?
They play at Atlanta and home to Arizona.
Yeah, I think then the Seattle has to go to tricky Carolina, and they've got 2 road games.
Yeah.
At San Francisco.
Yeah. So even if the Rams lose, they could end up winning the West. But if they win, they're going to win the West, and they're going to be the 1 seed. And I will say this just once. I know I said it a billion times when we went over every Week 18 scenario last year. I'm not going to do that this year. But if the Rams clinch the number 1 seed going into Week 18, you won't see one Rams starter let in the facility. They will all be sent to Hawaii.
Exactly. So then we've got San Francisco's lurking because no matter what, San Francisco and Seattle are playing for the division if Seattle wins these 2 games, aren't they?
I think San Francisco has at least a small chance, if not much more, I think Seattle could end up the 6th seed in when all was said and done, and San Francisco could end up the 5th seed.
But San Francisco can't San Francisco become the number 1 seed?
Yeah. Oh, yes. They're still in play for that.
But how they would do that is Seattle wins this week, and then San Francisco beats them. They win the division in the number 1 seed.
if they beat Indy this week and then beat Chicago. I mean, these aren't easy games for San Francisco because it's a step up in schedule for them, and we know their metrics. But if they win out, yes, under that scenario, they could be the number 1 seed, which is fascinating.
My gosh. The NFL should not allow that to happen. They should stop it. Adams is going to be out, right?
Yeah, they're holding out hope, but it could be just smokescreen. Where do you have San Francisco rated in terms of, are they in your top 5, 6, 7?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. We're talking about a lot of teams this year: New England, Denver, San Francisco, just to name 3, that are vying for very high seeds, and they're not in the top 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teams in the league.
No, San Francisco's not in the top 10.
Yeah, I have them 9th or 10th.
And Puka got banged up, but he'll be good to go, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't have much to say about the game. I think that the game is tough. I think it's going to be like the last game. It comes down to the wire, and I don't think anybody can really point out a true edge either way.
Now, I would have been interested had Seattle remained a dog. They would have qualified for some things, but where the line is now is nothing for me other than a fun game to watch.
Agreed. Just touching in on Green Bay, Chicago again, it just seems like Chicago is built for January. They're not kind of like a Barbie doll team, for lack of a better term. As you touched on it, I think Chicago's a solid team. If they come away with that victory, I think that they would not be a pretender in that category. I think that they would do well in the playoffs. What about you?
Yeah, I think they've proven they belong. Even in losses, like the loss to Green Bay, they proved it to me. What's scary, I think, but great for Chicago fans is we're going to see a better version of Caleb Williams next year with a whole off season, as we've discussed, with their new coach. So we're not even scratching the surface, at least they hope, in what Caleb Williams' ceiling is.
I thought Cincinnati was going to be trading Burrow for Caleb in a multiplayer trade.
I didn't hear that one, but I wouldn't do that if I were Cincy.
Oh, you got to start catching up.
I missed the rumor mill.
And we didn't mention Parsons is out. That's really.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, we didn't mention that, and that's why they're one of 3 teams circled in my power rating. Thanks for bringing that up, because I don't know exactly what the true worth of Parsons is, having him miss just a half a game right now.
Bills letdown spot.
You miss Philly, Washington. But we could skip it.
You know what? When you look at a game, you look at these divisional games, the better team on the road. Daniels is gone for the season, coming off of one of those, bad team with the big win games. Don't you want to just get a step away as far as you can from a game like this?
Yeah, maybe you unintentionally skipped it or intentionally skipped it. If the weather is good, I have a lean to the over.
I didn't write down what the weather was. I think the weather's supposed to be okay.
I'll tell you, that Pittsburgh game was a weird game because I did have I talked about a situation favoring Pittsburgh Monday night for the under, and it ended up being a push only because Miami came back. So you'd say, oh, they should have won, but also Miami missed a pair of 2-point conversions, so it could have lost. So it landed right on 43.
It's going to be 38-40. 0% chance of precipitation with 12-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah.
And that's a later game. So that's basically an evening game.
Okay. Yeah, my lean would be the over. I have no opinion on the side. At least right now, anyway.
Letdown spot for the Bills.
Yes and no, because they're not in. They have no guarantee they're in the playoffs, even though it looks like they're in the playoffs. They need one more win, which won't be a problem because they host the Jets the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, Cleveland plays a little bit better at home. Bills are playing decent versus the pass. I have a small lean on the Browns. I have a situation that is general NFL situation that works against Buffalo, but you know,
the Bills get home cooking the last 2 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
When you're giving up 250 yards a game rushing, how far can they go?
Yeah, that's a problem because in the playoffs, rushing matters a little bit more. To get to the playoffs, rushing doesn't matter at all. So the issue with Cleveland, I don't know what you think about Shedeur Sanders right now, but he's played Vegas and he's played Tennessee among his 4 starts. And Cleveland is only averaging 16 points per game. So let's not go crazy that Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback of the future.
Oh, let's see. I just want to look at Houston doesn't play the Jags. That leaves them in tough shape.
Yeah, I mean, that's the divisional race. That's a little weird because they're not going to match up against each other.
Did they lose both games versus the Jags, or did they split out? I forget.
Oh, boy. I don't have that in front of me, so I can find it out, but somebody will find it out faster than me.
I still have that 9-1 ticket on Houston to win division.
Ooh. Let's see. The Jacksonville beat Houston on November 9th by 3 points. Yep, they're 2-0. They beat them twice. So yeah, that's a harder road to climb for Houston. I mean, I want to skip in case I forget to mention this, but I mentioned it at the trade deadline. The getting getting Myers from the Raiders at the trade deadline was
that's
undervalued.
Huge. Just amazing.
Because they didn't really, they were down a receiver right at the trading deadline, and he was out for the year. And the fact that Jacksonville was able to get Myers, I thought was a bigger move. I said so at the time than it was for Seattle getting Shaheed, because Seattle had other options. But Jacksonville did not really have other options. Just an amazingly shrewd move. It points to why Jacksonville's coach didn't want to be the coach when the previous GM was there, Trent Baalke, as Russell knows and Dan Rivera knows and people who follow our show. That was the worst GM in the business that Jacksonville had. And look at them now.
Well, the odds to win the division, Houston's only plus 115.
That seems low. I mean, that seems like very much a lack of value.
Jags are minus 145. How much do you want me to bet for you?
Wasn't on my radar screen. Let's see. Houston. I mean, Houston looks like they're going to go 2-1 down the stretch, possibly 3-0. The Jags. Okay, if the Jags lose this game At Indy 2-0. I mean, you'd have to say the Jags are going to go 1-2, and Houston's going to go 3-0, because otherwise it doesn't work. That seems low. Yeah, Hector Shaheed has been fine, but if you compare the move to Myers, I think Myers has really helped.
Nothing exciting there. Yeah, I don't care about the Bills game. It's a good teaser game.
Yeah, we could skip that
one. Jet Saints, boy, that's a game I want nothing to do with.
Yeah, well, it's the Saints are on a roll right now, and I don't really want to lay the Saints, but I'm certainly not taking the Jets. So yeah, we could skip that.
The Vikings and the Giants. Jesus. The Giants have lost 8 in a row. They've got an interim head coach. Dart was in concussion protocol.
We are currently we're trending toward +3, -3, +3. Not quite there. I am supposed to play the Giants at +3, but boy, would I be trigger scared.
There's lots of 3s out there. You're forced to play them now.
A natural 3?
Well, -113 at Caesars.
Yeah, I guess that's close enough. Yeah, that's my worry is on Sunday, they're going to be +3 and I'm going to have a small play on the Giants.
Why are they even running Dart out there when he's getting banged up?
They need to see what they have. And this is another aspect of what you were talking about earlier. We have 3 teams that are 2-12, right? Tennessee, who doesn't need a quarterback because they're going to trust Ward. The Raiders, who need a bunch of quarterbacks. And we have the Giants, who, if they have the number 1 pick in the draft, even though they have Dart, would they draft a quarterback?
Let's see.
Dart is auditioning whether he likes it or not for these 3 games.
Saints, Kellen Moore says running back Devin Neal and wide receiver Vale won't play Sunday against the Jets, in case that matters to you. And Kamara isn't practicing.
Yeah, I'd rather skip the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as what Omar says, I'm not convinced Jackson Dart is a true NFL starter. I mean, he has some of the same traits that Baker Mayfield has in terms of his linebacker type mentality and so on and so forth. But I want to point out we had 4 quarterbacks who started games last week that were 37 years of age or older, right? We had Phillip Rivers, we had Aaron Rodgers, we had Kirk Cousins, and we had somebody else. All 4 are pocket quarterbacks. These running quarterbacks may not make it to age 37 in the NFL.
Well, I don't think they will. And I think that's probably the problem with Dart is I don't think he can change his style.
I don't think so either, at least not right now. He's going to need a quarterback whisperer.
I don't know about that game. It's a frustrating game. A lot of frustrating games on the slate.
Thank goodness after 2 weeks of heavy action, it looks like a smaller slate for me. I don't know about you.
I hate these last couple of weeks in some ways. You know, there's a lot of there's not as many must-win situations as in years past. It seems like there's less on the table going into a week 16 than normal. It's not even close. Well, there's not too much on the table here.
I agree completely. And those must-win situations, technically they lose versus the spread almost 60% of the time. Because if they're in a must-win situation, just like 5 and 6 teams in college, they've already lost a bunch of games to put themselves in a must-win situation. So they're incomplete teams, and they get hyped up and they get bet mostly by the general public, thinking that, they have to win the game, so they will.
Yeah, must win, must lose. There's not as many of those.
No, you could almost argue the next game, the Baltimore is in that situation. That's the one that was pointed out to me.
Well, Baltimore has to win. Even with a win, their playoff chances only go to 50%.
Yeah.
But even with a loss, they have a 24% chance. It just seems so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's very contingent on Pittsburgh.
I'm not sure Baltimore deserves to be a 3-point favorite.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that I guess it's weakening a little bit. It was a pretty solid 3-point favorite this morning.
Yeah. I set it at 3 and my numbers say 3. That's maybe more like you were saying, the respect for Baltimore's power number. It hasn't taken a deep dive. This series matchup yields all kinds of weird indicators that favor one side or favor the other side and so on. I personally, part of how I handicap is doing all these different things and then determining whether or not I feel like I have an edge that somebody else doesn't have. And if I come to the conclusion like this game that I don't feel like I have an edge, that I feel maybe handicap, maybe the odds makers have more of an edge than me, or they're seeing something, I have a sneaking feeling that I don't feel comfortable that I have found a hidden edge in this game.
Where do you think this line closes?
A solid 3. I think it goes back up to a solid 3. Sunday night.
This game is being set up for a high limit action on New England late.
Yeah, I don't know. Because this game is on Sunday night, so it's a primetime standalone home game, I just have a feeling we'll see a little bit more Baltimore action than normal.
That's a good point. You got to give a little bit of extra credit for that home team on the Sunday on the prime time.
Yeah. Jackson in prime time, this, that, and whatever. Doesn't sway my opinion. I just don't have an opinion.
High leverage, winner take all almost. Tampon Bay and Carolina. Is it going to be the shit show rebound bowl? They're both off shit shows.
The NFL is going to have its fit again where one of these teams finishes 8-9, maybe 9-8, and hosts a first round playoff game against somebody who's 12-5.
I hate that.
Yeah. Because it's almost a guarantee the number 5 seed in the NFC will have at least 12 wins. Carolina, whether it be the Rams, the 49ers, or the Seahawks, they're going to have 12 or 13 wins. And Tampa and Carolina, probably 9.
I heard it talked about this week, and it's just so true. The value of just skipping a game and getting that number 1 seed is just so important.
Yeah. Yeah. In the NFL, after you played all these different weeks, it's very important. You don't want to risk injury. We saw brutal injuries in week 15.
We're going to have a Minshew appearance.
Yeah, talking about volatility, that guy, he's the essence of volatility.
What do we think about correlated parlays, the Eagles and Chargers money line?
Eagles and Chargers money line.
I don't think that matters at all because Dallas only has a 2% chance of making the playoffs with a victory.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes a difference.
I'll agree with you.
Minshew, doesn't he seem to come off the bench every year and have a good game and get people interested in him, and then he just fades?
Yeah, it's the Colt McCoy syndrome. You get him for for McCoy, it's just six quarters in, he's going to get hurt again. Minshew won't get hurt, but he'll revert back to a bunch of interceptions.
And Colt McCoy must have been wondering what Rivers has that he doesn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Or any Charger quarterback. So here's the key question, because Kansas City has not been in this situation since 2012. What's their mindset being eliminated from everything?
That's what I can't figure out. I mean, are they more like built like the Rams, like how you mentioned the Rams would never show up in a week 18 unless they had to? Are they going to be thinking this, I don't need to break my ass. We've had a great run. There's nothing to prove here. Run out the table, run out the clock, right?
Yeah. So I think KC will show up for Denver because it's Denver on Christmas Day and it's standalone on Christmas Day. And I would set the over-under the last week, Kansas City at Vegas, for total points at 9.5, because that's going to be the ugliest week 18 game you've ever seen. But for this week, I don't know what we think.
I don't think they want to lose to Tennessee.
No, but what does a win do for them?
Pride.
Yeah. This is a tough game to handicap because we've had these conversations before where either you have said or I have said, I wouldn't be surprised if KC wins by this much, or I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee wins by this much. And I kind of have that feeling this week.
This might have alt line written all over it. Instead of taking the plus 3.5 on the Titans, you might be better off taking the minus 7.5 on the Titans.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation, just taking alt lines in this game because we don't know what's going to happen. So one result is as good as another.
I guess nothing's going to surprise me here. I mean, we know Minshew's going to try. I mean,
Minshew's going to try. Yeah.
Are there enough players? There's got to be enough players on Kansas City playing for jobs, but they're a little thin, out of the gate as it is.
Yeah, and then you got the situation where Tennessee's just not that good. So if Kansas City does decide to show up, well, obviously they're the better team.
Ugh. Chargers, Cowboys. What do you expect here?
Well, I'm not going to put anything past the Chargers' ability to compete after. I mean, they just won a divisional game. They should be in letdown mode, but something about Jim Harbaugh, they don't get in letdown mode. So it's a weird situation. I thought the line came out a little high for Dallas, but I understand with LA being off all these emotional games and Dallas playing no pass defense.
It's not a must-win for the Chargers, but
No.
I tend to think that they'll show up. I just don't trust. I don't trust Dallas's character at this point.
Let's see. So the line is 2.5, 2. It's not going to get to 3, I don't think.
I don't know how it could see. It can't see 3.
There would be buyback almost immediately.
It was dropping, and now it seems to be kind of holding its own. Maybe, I don't know.
There's not a lot of love for Matt Eberflus and his defense.
The only thing I have to say about Atlanta, Arizona is that what I said earlier is when Cousins doesn't have quit in him. So, oh, look at that line just moved. It's up to 3 at Circa. That's the only thing I have to say on it is when Cousins is on the field, I don't think he'll let his team quit. That's one advantage.
I understand Atlanta being the favorite because Arizona is terrible at home. What I don't understand, my power ratings do not support +3. They don't even come close to supporting +3.
My number comes right as exactly where it is, 2.33.
Okay. I would have made it pick 'em.
Well, you're wrong.
Well, I will. That's why this is not one of those step out. I mean, when you could take Denver in a step out situation or Carolina because they're better than Tampa, when you can take these teams that actually care and compete, I would tend to have more faith in my money allocation. But if I end up taking Arizona, which I probably would at +3, we're looking at the minimum play, the 1-star play, because it's Arizona. This week bothers me because there are bad teams that are in situations I might have to play.
Well, you've had BetOnline, Circa, and DraftKings move just since I said there's no quitting Cousins.
Yeah, that was all they needed to hear. Yeah, I would probably. This is a candidate. Let's flush this out. This is a candidate for in-game betting. If a team gets behind by more than 7, can either team's defense stop them from making it closer?
No, I think you always want to be betting the dog in-game in this one.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a note to myself on this one. And could be wrong. 10-0 could end up being 31-14. But with these teams, seems like you can make a case that garbage TDs or anything in this game.
Yeah, the over's the look in this game. This was a service release earlier this week at a lower number.
That makes some sense because why hold anything back in this game?
No. I missed the 47.
That's a key number usually.
It is. Jacksonville, Denver. Far more interesting than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I'm sure than a lot of people.
I missed
You want a weather report for this game?
What's the weather report?
60 degrees in Denver.
It probably won't be snowing then.
Yeah. Only if they artificially create it. I was hoping for 6 degrees.
Can Denver clinch the number 1 seed with a win this week?
If New England loses, if Jacksonville, yeah, they can.
This is interesting.
Look at Denver's schedule. I mean, home to Jacksonville, at KC, home to the Chargers. Not that easy.
They can clinch this week. They need help, but they're that close. They need Chargers, New England, and Buffalo. Why do they need all of them to lose?
There must be convoluted tiebreakers in there. New England is understandable. Maybe Buffalo, if they win out, and if Buffalo wins out and Denver goes 1-2, maybe Buffalo has the tiebreaker.
This can't be. Well, if New England had. All right. Yeah, never mind.
So we'll get to Indy in a little bit, because Russell says that Denver win opens the back door for a Colts division title. We could save that for the Monday night analysis. In 60 degrees, I think this is a tough game to handicap, Jacksonville and Denver.
They're on a roll. They're on a heater.
Yeah. I have one situation against them, but I really hesitate to go against a team like Jacksonville, who's doing so well, like you said.
Oh, let's see.
I don't like this week from a betting standpoint.
No, it's not a good week. Actually, Jacksonville's like only like the 9th best team over the last 5 weeks.
Okay. Good by Jacksonville standards, but this year, great year.
Well, I find it really odd that my model had me betting Jacksonville at the start of the season, and when they got bad, it had me betting against them. And I've been betting on Denver recently, and I bet against Jacksonville last week and on Denver, but somehow the model says that this line is pretty tight. And that it just seems just amazing how it's accurately on Jacksonville, and off and on, off and on. It's just bizarre how it can have me switching sides or potentially switching sides that rapid.
Well, I think a lot of what you said is accurate. My power numbers haven't had it as much volatility as your model, but this line is. I'm going into this game without thinking anything else. Denver -3. I'm thinking, wow, that seems a little low. But when you look at everything, it's the correct line.
Yeah, it's. I thought it would have been.
Yeah, I ended up setting 3 as well, so I could make a case for 2.5 as opposed to 3.5. To be honest, based on my numbers.
Yeah, it's leaning 3.5.
But if this was cold, if this was 12, if this was last week's weather, I would play Denver in this game.
Yeah, I don't think they're getting any help by the weather. That's hurting Denver.
I think Jacksonville has played well enough to earn the respect to be playing at Mile High Stadium. And unfortunately, because I would have liked Denver in this situation, but I really can't. Based on everything I've written and all my numbers, I'd be forcing a play if I made a play right now.
Ravens coach John Harbaugh says Lamar Jackson is missing practice because he has the flu.
Well, he misses Wednesday anyway.
He does. Pittsburgh, Detroit. This is odd. Where do you put this line?
This line should not be 7. I made the line 4. Well, my numbers make it 4.5, but I knew Detroit would be in a better spot because I have situations going against Pitt. I have a good situation for the Lions in this game, but unfortunately, I mean, you may disagree, but I wouldn't have made this 7.
Well, it's interesting because I see it's 6.5 and leaning 7.5 some places. So
yeah.
It's kind of odd.
Do you have Detroit in your top 5 or 6 power model?
No, not quite, but they're higher than where they belong.
Yeah, I have them kind of 9, 10, 8, 9, 9, 10, I think. So they're not in my top 5.
No, I have them at 8, which they don't really belong that high, but that's where they are.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. Pittsburgh's down, certainly they're middle of the pack. But
they're not middle of the pack.
Yeah. So you would have had this line higher than 7.
No,
because I know you're not high on Pittsburgh.
I'm trying to figure out where this line goes because it's as we've seen in some of the comments, people think the Lions are going to blow their doors off, and some people think the line should be as low as 4.5. I've heard through the grapevine. So it's an interesting face-off here.
Yeah, and I'm facing an internal dilemma for all those same reasons. My power numbers can't support anything over 5. The matchup indicators can't support anything under 7. So you've got a real problem here. This is not a good situation for Pittsburgh. The only thing I will say is that Aaron Rodgers used to face the Lions twice a year. So he's been there, done that, and he's going to have some dome. Did you see the way he pulled the trigger in that game? He was throwing the ball, snapping the ball because he throws it so quickly to receivers that hadn't even made their break yet. And he knew exactly where they were going to be because he doesn't throw the ball to anybody who can't run a route. And then he throws a touchdown to some of these tight ends and stuff like that. He was really on his game against Miami.
Yeah, he's been improving, if anything.
Yeah, the question is, will the Lions give him some looks? I like the fact the Lions are, like you said at the beginning of the show, 39 sacks. That's more than usual. I know they came, like you said, in a cluster of games, but Hutchinson will try to make his presence felt in this game.
The other oddity is the start time in Detroit. It's an odd late afternoon start.
Mm-hmm. So in a fact that may have some value, but generally doesn't have a lot of value, the Lions are 25-11 against the spread in their last home game.
And they're also a gazillion and 0 after a loss.
Yeah. You think about that 25-11, and a lot of times the Lions were not that good, in their last home game. This is not a team that's been playoff bound year after year after year. We know recent history has been good. So they've had some bad teams and still won their last game. I would like to play the Lions, but I would not like to play them at the current number.
Yeah, this is the fan send-off game. They even if they make the playoffs, they're unlikely to see a home game.
That's correct.
It'd be impossible.
Unless you have that pizza money, 14-1 to win the division.
Who's got pizza money?
Your piggyback money. All those pennies add up.
What about, it didn't seem like they missed TJ Watt as much as I thought that they would, as much as they normally do.
Yes and no. Tua wilted in 16-degree weather, and that offense was, Miami was not in a good situation.
I'd like to spend the next 30 minutes talking about Las Vegas at Houston.
Okay, I'll come back, and when you're done, let me know.
We're going to skip
I love that line.
I've got nothing I need to talk about on that game.
Okay, next. Anybody in the chat want to hear about Vegas and Houston? Let us know.
I don't know what to make out of this. They're going to sit Tua. The next 3 years, they're on the hook for $54 million. They can't get rid of Tua. he played abysmally.
Yeah.
And they're starting Emery. What's his name? Quinn
Ewers.
Ewers.
So I've studied Quinn a lot. And if Ted were here, he'd ask me, what do you know about him or whatever. He throws one of the soft, you know how some players don't have touch on their throws? Even long-term NFL veterans don't know how to have loft on the ball and they don't have touch. Quinn Ewers was born with touch on his throws. He is so good at that. The flip side is he is so anti-Aaron Rodgers in terms of, flipping a pass at a moment's notice and putting arm speed on it. He cannot throw the bullet pass whatsoever. So going in that he has touch, but he cannot throw into tight windows, and he lacks NFL exposure to throw into tight windows. He's thrown 8 NFL passes, and he's been sacked twice, for whatever that means. So here's the good news. He plays Cincinnati's defense.
Yeah, that's what my response was.
So horses for courses. He would be a play against a lot of teams. I would be able to take my knowledge of Quinn Ewers and say he's going to be horrible against certain teams. But I actually think he has a chance against Cincinnati because they're not good at rushing the passer and they're not good at defending the pass.
I feel it's a matter of who's quit more out of these two teams. What do you think?
Yeah, and so that's the other dilemma. Miami just played on Monday night, so they have a day and a half less prep, and do they care at all?
And there's also a stat that backup quarterbacks making their first start at home don't fare well against the spread.
And you also pointed out that since he didn't score last week, these teams that didn't score can bounce back. So you have a lot of different things. I have a very, very good Miami indicator that I do. I mean, I may end up backing Miami.
I think over the last 20 years or something, the visitors off of a shutout the previous game are 64%. That's pretty strong.
-4. What do you think of the line?
I don't know. I need to digest this game more.
Yeah. I mean, Tua, you'd say, Tua has experience. He's worth X number of points, so on and so forth. But every turnover is worth 3.5 points. And Tua, Miami, let's see, Miami, believe it or not, is only -2 in turnover margin, which is weird because Tua has 15 defensive, he's thrown so many interceptions. But I subtracted 4 points almost without conviction. I made Miami's power rating, circled 4 points worse. And I would come up with a line of 2.5 in this game.
Yeah, it's probably too high.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I lean Miami because I don't think Cincy should be a 4-point favorite right now. But obviously, Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers.
San Francisco Indy.
So Rivers has a day and a half more to prep for this game, which I think is big. Because here's a guy who got off his sofa, played meaningful football, played Seattle, tough game, survived. Let's see, how many times was he sacked? 1 time he was sacked because obviously they threw a lot of short passes. So he
got rid of the ball fast. I mean,
yeah,
Jesus.
Very fast.
But has he changed his throwing technique, or was it always that way? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was that way, that kind of half quarter or 3/4 motion, 90 degrees and stuff like that. He had that kind of push the ball motion, the old vintage Philip Rivers. That hasn't changed.
Just bizarre how, but the ball gets out of there fast, but it doesn't go fast. I mean,
Yeah,
I was looking at the highlights. I'm like, how the hell wasn't more ball? How weren't more interceptions had there?
One thing is he kind of showed a good sense of pocket sense, even missing those 5 years that he was out. He showed good awareness, so he knows when to get the ball out.
I don't think, did he make an attempt of more than 15 yards?
2 or 3 throws, including the last throw, out of necessity.
Where's your line on that game?
Well, I still have Indy circled. I didn't have a proper line on this game. Just for the fun of it, I made this line 4.5.
This is interesting because it's prime time. That's a real added dynamic on this.
So the line is 6. And here's my question to you and to anybody. How good is San Francisco? Because their stats are they're just playing. I understand winning and I like Purdy and I think they're a good organization, obviously. And so there's a lot to like about them. But if you look strictly at their numbers and you look strictly at the model numbers, they're achieving this against, some rather weak competition, a 4th place schedule.
Well, Indianapolis has been trending down the last 5 weeks. They're pretty much near the bottom. And San Francisco's actually been trending up. I don't remember who the hell they've even been. Have they played a decent team recently?
They played the Rams and lost by 16.
Right.
And then they beat Arizona. They hosted Carolina and beat them soundly enough, 20-9. And then they just played Cleveland. Yeah. So their one tough game, they lost by 16. Prior to that, they beat the Giants. Prior to that, they lost by 11 to Houston. So every tough team they've had a problem with.
Well, Indy's been playing a tough team every game.
Yeah. I think what drives me to lean Indy's way, but I think I need a lot more work on this game. But what drives me Indy's way is that Rivers is going to have a clean pocket.
Well, and they're going to have a team that's going to prep for him and take it seriously, so to speak. Mm-hmm. They're going to realize that he can't throw the long ball, so that might help out San Francisco's defense and change their game plan a little bit coming in, because they're going to dare Rivers to throw the long ball, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. And so Seattle changed at halftime. They cheated up a little bit more. And we know Seattle's run defense is really good, under 4 yards a carry. That used to be what San Francisco was doing, but this year it's more like 4.35 yards allowed per carry. So they've got to cheat on Jonathan Taylor, and they could lower that yards per carry, but I think Taylor will have a little bit more success than he did against Seattle when they played at Seattle. They're playing on their home turf now.
So we got both tackles are out for Indy.
Yeah, I still think it'll be a clean pocket given San Francisco's 16 sacks in 14 games.
Well, that's it. It's fascinating that the timing of this primetime game for Indy. It does make the game interesting, even if you don't want to bet it.
It's a very interesting game. It's important for San Francisco because they're not in the what's their right now. Where do they stand in terms of playoff prediction? If they lose this game, what happens to San Francisco?
Oh, they're in great shape still.
Okay, they're still in great shape.
They are 82. If they lose, it would plummet down to 92%.
Okay, and they host Chicago and Seattle, 2 good teams, though. So their schedule is ramping up. Obviously, if Indy loses this game, are they at 10%?
7.
Okay, yeah. And if they win?
31.
Okay. So do or die for Indy in this game.
They might be focused.
Yeah. It's a fun game. I don't think I have all the parts necessary to bet it, other than the fact the line seems high to me.
And I think, Rivers is being integrated in smoothly is another thing. He's been all about the team. I mean, it's a feel-good story that the team can get behind and then rally behind, and it keeps their energy up.
Is that true that Ricky Pearsall may not play? Because, boy, he was a standout last week, which I appreciated. So if he's, and we don't get injury reports on Monday's games until Saturday and then Sunday as well. So that would be a loss not having Pearsall, because Indy's much better defense. So Russell, are you predicting an Indianapolis win against San Francisco? $50-1. Yes, he's predicting. Okay.
Well,
let's do it. Let's see if I can squeeze out an Indy bet to end the week. What do you like about San Francisco in this game?
me? Nothing.
Yeah. Okay. I like Purdy. I like George Kittle.
I like cheese.
But I don't like their pass defense. I don't like their pass rush. If Indy can get by, you know how San Francisco is masterful at scripting the first 15 plays?
Yeah.
If Indy can get by and survive that the first 10 minutes of the game, I think it makes it very interesting from a Colts perspective.
Yeah, you're probably right, because they'll probably play from behind out of the gate.
Yeah, so I think that will be interesting. And we'll see how much they want to open it up with Philip Rivers now that he has a game. I mean, how much can you open up the offense against Seattle in Rivers' first game? Not too much.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is maybe I was a little short-sighted in saying San Francisco knows what to expect. Maybe they do open it up more now that they know what they have to work with.
Yeah, it's a good brainstorming session for this game because there's a lot of moving parts.
Speaking of moving parts, have you done any college football?
I was coerced into doing football, monetarily coerced, but I preferred not to. So I'm not doing the write-ups that I did for 40 years. I'm just doing bullet points, and I haven't gotten far.
Explain to me why this Delaware line moved 4 points today.
Ooh, see, I'm not even paying attention to that stuff because, in fact, Delaware, I came out with no opinion on that game. Yeah, I bet a game yesterday where the running back declared himself out 20 minutes before the game,
and
I still won it. The Jacksonville State game.
And not only that, I thought the Troy quarterback played.
Yeah, both quarterbacks played.
Yeah, but the Troy quarterback wasn't supposed to play.
Well, he was banged up, but he played. Yeah, I mean, if I knew that, I would have never played the game. And the line moved like crazy in that game. And it still won.
But you handicapped Lafayette and Delaware when Lafayette was favored by 3. They're getting a point now.
Yeah, did I make a play on that game? I don't even remember. Whatever I told you. I have to look it up. I'm looking it up now. Because I'm so disinterested in the college, but I'm doing it for other reasons. ULO Lafayette. No, I have no play in that game. I have the under in the USF ODU game. As usual, not the best line, but a decent line. I do not have a play on the Delaware game.
Even though it's moved 4 points?
Oh, I'd have to revisit that. I hope not to. Do I really want to? Is Tubby Raymond still the Delaware coach? The answer is no, because he was coaching the 70s there. They had Joe Flacco and they had Rich Gannon at Delaware.
Well, I guess the feedback that I got was Lafayette. This is Delaware's first bowl appearance, so they're going to travel well and they're excited about being in a bowl. Whereas Lafayette, been there, done it.
If I can find somewhere my power numbers. Okay, I'm getting up. Not that I have a great. Conference USA is. Who knows about them? No, it's still within power number range. So no, I don't want anything to do with this game.
Oh shit! The South Florida game's starting now. I guess I'm not betting it.
Really?
Yeah. Jesus.
Oh my goodness. All right.
And why doesn't anybody like Western Michigan? Just because they blew out their tire to win the division and or the conference, and they don't care about the bowl?
Western Michigan. Oh, Kennesaw State, another great matchup. Let me look. And that's the last one I even did bullet points on, I think. Or I did Memphis, NC State also. No, I had no recommendation in that game.
What do you make of the Alabama-Oklahoma line?
I haven't formally done bullet points on that game. As far as the spread.
The first time they played, this total was 8 points higher than it is now. And the point spread was significantly different.
Yeah, double revenge for Alabama, but I would make Oklahoma a 1 point favorite. That's what they are. Huh, okay. They were a dog. Today Oklahoma was a dog.
Yeah, well, that moved since we've been this show has droned on and on so long that Oklahoma's become the favorite too.
And we didn't even talk about that game. Yeah, I haven't done the work on that game, but I would probably favor Oklahoma.
All right, you got anything else? I think we've
used up our allotment of time. Next week will be a different. No, next week will be the same. Well, we'll figure it out, but it'll be Wednesday on the 24th.
And Ted's show is going to be tomorrow at noon. I hope to be able to join. He's going to have Kiev from the Odds Breakers on to fill in for you, Ron.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll be giving blood, but hopefully you guys have a great show, and we'll expand upon. I tell you, this week is a weird one. Need a little bit more time to get ready for this week.
I agree. Appreciate everybody commenting and joining, and the feedback and such. And hopefully there was something of interest there. So I'll probably see you tomorrow. I have an appointment in the morning before that I hope doesn't interfere. So don't forget about Ted tomorrow. And we'll be back, same bet channel, same bet time next week.